motion, deferment?
Yeah, I think the Area Committee should mark the passing of Warren Kenny on Christmas morning in Cherry Orchard. It was a very, very tragic event, and absolutely an accident waiting to happen, given the degree of use of the bikes and the quads on the roads where they shouldn't be, and the absolutely dangerous way that they were used and are being used constantly. So I would just like to mark his passing and pay sympathy to his family. I think it's really tough on them. A young fellow, he was very popular. Obviously, there were hundreds of young people at his funeral, and he sounded like an extremely popular, decent young man. There is, however, an issue about how we approach this, and we've had a meeting, and Bruce, I hope you'll come in on it, because I thought the meeting was quite fruitful, and yourself, Chair, I hope you'll come in on it, because I think that it's very, very clear from the guards that they're not going to stop these young fellas. They're not going to approach them. They're not going to, give them chase or anything else for good reasons, because they know that this will end up in a negative place for them and for the kids involved. But the culture is growing and growing, and it's endemic, and it's awful, because it does two things. It puts the lives of the young people at danger, but it also creates a huge antisocial element in the estates. Last weekend in Crawford, the residents were persecuted with the bikes going till 4 in the morning. I'd go nuts, I really would. I'd find myself losing my head and going out and choking somebody. And that's something that's waiting to happen if we don't get a grip of this problem. And it also is destroying the green spaces, which is why the Parks Committee originally decided to look at this. But I just think we need to take serious the notion, as they've done in other areas, that if you provide a track for these bikes to speed away and race on, that you are at least beginning to alleviate the problem. You're not addressing it in full. There's obviously people who won't use the tracks. There's always going to be a percentage of people who won't use the tracks. But I think we should attempt to provide a track. And I think if we do so in Cherry Orchard, we'll get young people coming from both Cherry Orchard and Clondalkin. They can join a club, they can use the tracks. Now, since I was at the meeting with yourself, Chair, and the manager, I met the two guys, one from Westmeath and one from East Wall, who are running motocross clubs, and it was very interesting to listen to them, because the empirical evidence in both cases is very clear that 80 to 85% of the bikes come away from the spaces, the public spaces, onto the tracks. And apparently, know nothing about motorbikes, but apparently the experience of driving the bike on a track is hugely different to one where you're just scooting around Lefanu Park or Crawford or whatever, and hugely enjoyable, and one that they keep wanting to repeat and to revisit. And they've had a massive amount of success in Westmeath and in East Wall, and these guys are willing to make a presentation to us. Now, they've gone a huge step further than what I'm initially arguing for. They've set up a club, they're competitive, they, travel around and all the rest of it. But I do think it'd be worthwhile for us councillors to take this seriously and to visit one of those clubs, East Wall being the nearest one, talk to the lads, see how they set it up, and look at the possibility of doing something similar in our area. Now, I don't think we should go the whole 9 yards that they have gone to now, in the absence of people who are engaged in the sport running with us and taking control of it. I certainly don't either have the time nor the inclination to run a motocross club. It has to be people engaged in the sport that do it themselves. But I think we should make a start. And my motion today is asking, there was a favourable response from Bruce at the last meeting, that the council consider giving a bit of land in Cherry Orchard to allow for this, because it'll be away from the houses, but it'll be close enough for people to walk their bikes or their quads to the track. It doesn't cost a huge amount of money. It involves gathering up thousands of tyres, which could be very useful, recycling of the tyres that often become a problem at Halloween. And obviously the companies are given to us for nothing because they have to pay to get rid of them. And it involves a bit of ploughing and a bit of digging and creating banks and all the rest of it. But what's needed from the council in the immediate is a commitment to give a piece of land. And as we know from the expressions of interest that were put out for developing housing, none of the developers showed an interest in the lands around Cherry Orchard, and there is 8-point-something hectares there. So I hope councillors will support this, and I hope people don't get the impression that I see the way of dealing with this is to give the uncles everything they want. I do not see that. But the evidence is there that 80 to 85% of the bikes go away from the estates into these tracks, and it alleviates the problem hugely.
Thanks, Bríd. Dahi.
Thanks very much. Just to thank